Hey guys, this is Kenny from learnhowtoprosper.com, and I wanted to just share with you again. I've been doing this series on really what I call the career tech hub. I spent 30 years in technology, and I have a lot of people that ask me questions about how to get into high tech. And not only that, I started in essence as a mental health counselor, and so I've had a couple of different careers along the way. And I've been going through each of the, if you click on each of the 11 chapters of this career guide. And so if you want to see the other ones, you can go to my channel and you can see some of the other ones stacking up there. And keep coming back because I'm going to be updating the playlists. I'll have a number of playlists, some that will be dedicated just to Career Hub, and as well as some of the other items that I talk about at learnhowtoprosper.com. I really have four pillars that I work on. It's health, wealth, relationships, and faith. I consider all these four to be essential, and this I call prosper jobs is my focus on under the wealth category, because I really believe that the majority of wealth that is acquired by most people is through a job that you receive. Now, having said that, where you're working for someone else. Now, I do think that you can always be working on a side gig and increasing your skills and building your abilities. And I think you can do that in a way where it doesn't interfere with the work that you do on a daily basis. In fact, in my experience, it's actually enhanced my ability to be more effective in my various work roles. And I love it. I love being able to. There's a lot of benefits working for a company. There's a lot of resources you can draw on, a lot of really smart people that you can work with. And it has all the other things that corporate life brings. But you know what? If you have the right perspective, it doesn't need to bother you or drag you down. Because you should think of your job as just one of your very most important clients, someone that you serve, someone that you're going to do work for, and you want to continuously get better at serving your client. Like, think of yourself as a consultant, where in this case you have one really, really important client, and that's your current employment. So you're always in the driver's seat, and I think that you'd be foolish to believe that it's otherwise, because whether you know it or not, these businesses that you work for, they're in it for business. It's not They're not there for you or for your growth necessarily. Now they'll be happy for you to help you grow, particularly if it benefits the company. And as long as you know that up front and don't get cynical or upset about the fact that it's something different than that, you're going to be fine. I actually like it. I like the mindset, and the mind hack for me is, look, I've got a really important client. They pay me extremely well, and I get to work with people that I like, and I'm going to make this environment the absolute best that I can because I'm a part of it. And what I'm a part of, I'm going to do my very best to make it special, to make it the absolute best that it can be. So, in today's chapter, I'm talking about how AI is your competitive advantage, and there's a lot of, noise and FUD and everything else around AI out there. And I'm old enough now to remember when email came along, when the internet came along. Yes, I used Mosaic and Netscape and all those early browsers, and then I've been able to watch, Firefox that came in, and then of course Chrome browser and Safari and all these other browsers that have come along is kind of a window to the internet in ways of just putting an immense amount of data in our fingertips. And I remember people, very upset about the internet when it first came out because it was impacting the job market. You had people who were building, and you've seen it. It has disrupted so many things. I mean, all the technologies have. When I was in high school, toward the end of my high school years, is when the VHS videos came out, and they had the different stores, and Blockbuster became a big one. But you used to go to these other just little stores. It could be like a pharmacy, and they would have like a video section, and you go and you could rent videos. And then who would even think of that now? Like, that's just archaic because everything's streamed, everything's available. Now you've got all these streaming. I mean, just look at it. Literally everything has been impacted by technology, and AI is going to be that same kind of disruptor. And I welcome it. I embrace it. And yet I think that it's important that you become its master and not the other way around. And, people have always felt this way when new technologies emerge. But I think that if you embrace it and learn it, it's going to be to your benefit, to your great benefit. So when you hear all these things, and listen, people have always, I I I do quite a lot of work in the stock market and in investing in different things. And one of the things that's so fascinating to observe is this, and maybe you've heard of this before. It's the fear and greed index, and literally the market operates on the continuum between those two extremes. People are either riding extremely full of fear or extreme greed, and everywhere in between. And that is literally what runs the internet, or runs the internet, is literally what runs the stock market for a lot of retail investors. And because that we're emotional creatures, we don't make rational decisions. We really don't. We mostly are very emotional. And so it's the same thing with AI. People are predicting the end of the end. And look, have bad things come out of the internet? Yes. I think pornography is a scourge, and it's there and it's on the internet. It's available freely, and it can be a real damaging force in people's lives. I've worked with people that have been completely crippled by pornography addiction. So it's no light matter. And I know you can argue about, well, freedom of speech. Yes, all these things. Look, I think those things are going to be out there. But my point is, there's always going to be great things, and there will always be these technologies will be used in nefarious ways as well. So, and yes, if you have a pornography addiction, I think you should do everything in your power to break it. I've worked with probably hundreds of people, and I can tell you that in the quiet moments, why people will say, oh, yeah, it's no big deal. In the way it impacts their lives, and it robs you of ambition, it robs you of so many different things. I don't know how I got on this, but that's the way it's going to go on my channel. Sometimes I'll have thoughts and I'll go there. But at any rate, people were emotional. It's not like that the continuum is rational and irrational, and that sometimes you're rational. No, it's fear and greed, because those are the things that human nature most often pivot on, are those two things. This is no different. And in the job market, I would say I like to keep it. Don't be afraid, and of course, don't be. Well, in this case, I guess it's not greed so much, although it could be if you're using it only for the purposes of using it to coerce or manipulate. So people can use any of these things to be greedy. But I was just going to walk through this. I think the right framing, and it's so true here. There is a lot of anxiety about AI replacing technology. The fear is understandable. It can write code, answer technical questions, generate documentation. But more accurate is AI will not replace technology professionals. Technology professionals who know how to use AI will replace technology professionals who don't. And that is a true story. So learn it. It's not that hard. And I've enjoyed it, immensely. I built this whole website using AI, and you could too. In fact, you could build a website like this in 20 minutes. If you go over to learnhowtoprosper.com, under courses, I do, you'll see that depending on when you watch this video, I've got a course there that you can see. And if it's not there yet, don't worry, it's coming, and I'll continue to talk about these things. Just subscribe to my channel here, and you'll be able to learn more about it as time goes. But daily AI workflow, yeah, you can set up, you can use AI as your personal tutor. When you encounter a technical concept you don't understand, ask ChatGPT or others to explain it to you like a beginner. Then as a professional, ask it to quiz you. AI is the most patient tutor ever created. So true. Career planning, you give AI a job description and ask it to act as a hiring manager and conduct a mock interview. Dude, you can do that. It would be incredible. In fact, it could be that simple. You come here to ChatGPT, and let's just start a new thread here. And let's go to project. No, that's not what I wanted. Not settings. I just want to go to the project itself, just because I have a lot of threads here, project home. So let's go here and say, let me shrink my big head. All right. And these days you don't even have to type. let's just try this. I'm just going to hit the mic right here. Hey, I want to act as if you are my career coach, and I'm looking to get into a new job field in the technology world. And I'm particularly interested in something in IT or cloud infrastructure, something like that. What kind of guidance would you give me as my career advisor to start learning more in this space and to become effective? All right. So I'm just going to let that, go and do its thing. And here it is. Approach a little differently than many career coaches. I wouldn't start with what certification should I get or which programming language should I learn. Just start with one question. How do you become someone who solves expensive business problems? You know what? That is exactly right. That is exactly right on. So this is what it did was it went out and looked at the extensive knowledge available and out there, and it coalesced it into one point here. Technology is just the toolkit. Man, I love that. So true. The technology pyramid, most people start at the bottom and they work their way up. So hardware fundamentals and operating systems and networking, cloud and infrastructure, architecture and design, and leadership and strategy. You eventually want to understand all these layers. Phase one, learn how computers actually work. I think that's so important. Like when I first started, I built many computers, put all the components together so I could understand what's the CPU, what's the RAM, what's the storage, what's the SSD versus ADD, solid state storage versus hard drive, file systems, all these things. Um, and if you skip that, you're really missing out. You do have to understand DNS. How do you bind an IP address to a DNS name? So when you go on the internet, like at learnhowtoprosper.com, that's just a understandable and rememberable name that is bound to a number that you can never remember. But you can remember learnhowtoprosper.com. I can say that. You can go to it and you can find it. Phase two, master operating systems. So that's one clue. Let me just show you a little bit about this website that I built. Oh, is this it? Career Hub. Did it fall asleep? So, for example, I built this website where I'm talking right now about AI, and I use this technology here to build it. Looks like I'm waking up the environment. So for example, here you can see the website. I'll expand it here a little bit, and you can actually, because I hate to type, I created this tool. It's called the Productivity Pad, and if you want to learn more about it, you certainly will by going over to learnhowtoprosper.com. I've got all kinds of things, but one of the things I can do is I can dictate, and it keeps a log of all my dictations. I've got a long history of hundreds and hundreds of dictations, depending on which app I'm working in. So right here in the Career Tech Hub, I've been walking through these career guides. But if you come over here under Grow and Interview Prep, here's another example of using AI to help you. And it's got this mock AI, get a random interview question. One thing, for example, if I wanted to update this technology, this website, to do something more, like instead of just this get a random interview question, what if I could go back and forth with you as typing it back and forth, or even dictating back and forth as if you were interviewing me? So let me show you what that would look like. So here I'm just going to say that. First of all, I'm going to take a screenshot of this, and I built this ability to take screenshots using a Chrome native browser capability. And so let me show you how this works. I can just come in here. I can select a screenshot. I can select a particular window, which is this one right here. And then I can click on share. I just took a screenshot, and there it is right there. Now I can actually copy that screenshot and paste it here in the chat dialog of this technology that I use. Okay. And now I'm going to tell it what to do by coming back here. I'm going to dictate. I'm going to say, look at this screenshot here, and it says get a random interview question. This is from the Interview Prep Center under Grow of the Tech Career Hub. But what I'd like to be able to do is add a capability to this that would, in essence, allow me to ask an AI question, like there's a chat dialogue. And I would like even to be able to just have a little microphone. I could just click on the microphone and dictate into it and have it um, have have it interview me on any of these particular areas. So you'll see that it's got like a systems administration, cloud infrastructure, cybersecurity, data analytics, software engineering, operations and business systems, any of those that I could, instead of get a random interview question, which is the large kind of bar in the center of that screenshot, it would actually have a chat dialogue. Is that something that you could do? So that's transcribing that whole, and there it is. Look at the screenshot, and it kind of gives you that whole thing. So I'm going to copy that now and just paste it over here. And now I'm just going to let that go to work. So let's see how this works. I'm going to let that run for a minute. In fact, I'm probably going to pause this and then come back once this is done, and we'll take a look at what it looks like now versus what it's going to look like here. Let's see what it comes back with here is just kind of an initial thought. So look what it's doing right here. It says perfect. Replacing the get a random interview question button with a full AI interview chat. The interview asks you a question. You respond by typing or clicking the microphone to speak. It transcribes your answer, and the AI gives you feedback building it now. So it's actually building the code right here. You can see it building the code as we speak. Now, you could go build this by yourself if you wanted to, but honestly, AI can do it so much faster and so much better, and it puts it in perfect context. So here it is. It's literally going off and doing this right now. I'm just going to pause this, and we'll come back and see about how long it took, and we'll take a look at the results. All right, so it's back now, and that took about 5 minutes, 5 or 8 minutes, and it says the AI mock interview is now a full live chat. Here's exactly how it works. Click to grow, interview prep, and AI mock interview tab. Select your career path, and then start interviews. So here it is right here. Ready to practice, your AI interviewer will ask you real systems administration questions and give you specific feedback on each answer. Type or use the microphone to respond. So let's start the interview. Hello, I'm an interview here to discuss your experience and skills in systems administration. We'll go through a few questions to get a better understanding of your background. Let's start with a foundational question. Can you explain the difference between a process and a thread, and when you might choose to use one over the other in a systems administration context? No, I don't really know what the difference is between a process and a thread. I mean, I would guess that a thread is multiple individual pieces that combine to make a process. But you tell me, what is it? Oh boy. So sometimes you're going to see that. So here's what actually happens. So there's an error, and it says AI mutation failed to fetch audio file. So fix it. So now it literally is going to go and fix that. And this is kind of the process that I use. In fact, I create a whole course on this, as I mentioned, if you want us to learn more. It says errors in the voice transcription failed to fetch audio means that the server's trying to fetch the audio from a storage URL, but can't reach it. So now it's going and doing its thing. So I'm just going to let that do its thing for a minute. And like before, it's out here, parsing code and looking at where the issue is. And it's happening right as you watch. It's pretty cool. And a lot of times I will, because I've learned a ton from just watching this. Found the root cause. Basic audio upload is URL. URLs. Send a whisper. It failed to fetch audio file. Error happens when the server tries to fetch and it's not accessible, likely a presenting expression. The fix is to bypass the fetch entirely and send the audio buffer directly to the whisper. So very interesting. So you can learn a lot by just watching as this goes, and you can see the entire breakdown of your code base over here. But I'm just going to let this run for a minute, and I'll come back. All right, that took about a minute. Said fixed. The microphone should work now correctly in the mock interview. What was wrong? And that's what I like about it. It always tells you what was wrong, what it fixed. And sometimes you do have to go through it a couple of times. That's just the iteration process. Let's try it again. Let's see. So it's a little bit different now. I'm your name, interviewer name. That doesn't look right. I'm a senior systems administrator here at the company name. I'll be conducting your interview today. We're looking for a skilled and proactive systems administrator to join our team. I'm excited to learn about your experience. Let's start with the foundational question. Can you describe your process for troubleshooting a critical production server that has suddenly become unresponsive? Walk me through the steps you would from the initial. Well, let's try that. Well, typically, the first thing I'm going to look for are any logs or any error files or anything like that that could be an issue. That's probably where I'm going to start, and I'm going to see what those indicate, and then I'm just going to climb my way up through the chain until I can eliminate some of the bigger issues and get to the true cause. So, and there it went. So you can see that. Well, typically, the first thing I just did that really nicely. Now I'm just going to send that off. And here we go. That's a good start. Focusing on logs, definitely a key initial step. It's important to gather information quickly to make your troubleshooting more systematic. What specific types of logs would you check first, and what tools would you use to access them? Also, how would you determine if the issue is with the server itself or the network or the application? So, this is a great way to just kind of walk through an interview on any one of these. So you saw how I did that in real time. That's the power of AI. That's the world we live in now. And you might think, well, that's crazy. That's going to take people's jobs. Well, no, what it's going to do is it's going to allow hundreds of thousands of people to build better and better apps. And it's going to keep peeling back the onion of the capabilities until eventually we get to the place where it's like Star Trek time and you've got incredible capabilities like, you know, uh, replicators and the ability to beam from one place to another. Um, I don't know if that will happen, but I think sometimes we think too insularly in these things, and the fact is that um, these can really be a blessing. And if you learn to use it, it can be very powerful. And I would say that if you learn to use AI, and I just showed you one little example. I have a course. I go into it way deep, and I'll start doing more of these types of presentations just here on the channel that will give you more clues and hints. And you don't have to take my course. You can just go to ChatGPT and ask it. But if you want to kind of see end to end and how you can create it and how you bind it to a DNS name and how you can add Stripe and make it a true full end-to-end supported app, then I'm happy to do that. And it's just a complete gas. How's that for an old word? It's just a lot of fun. So here's kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, AI can be wrong. It can confidently state incorrect information. Always verify important technical facts from authoritative sources. It's so true. You have to iterate with AI. You have to learn how to prompt. You have to learn how to interact with it. You have to learn how to be effective with it. But the final thing I'll say is all of these things are made for people. Nothing's more important than people. And so, in the end of the day, your ability to interact with people, your ability to communicate and clearly work with teams, and your ability to then translate how you can use AI to accomplish these things effectively is going to put you right in the most valuable seat there is. So I would say embrace AI. I think it's going to be an absolutely essential part of your ability to really land an incredible role in your vocation. What is your bigger calling? And think of it that way. Think of it as a calling. Well, I've gone really long on this one, so I'm going to wrap it up. But hopefully you got some good ideas on how to use AI. And like I said, I go deep, and you can learn more over at learnhowtoprosper.com. And I hope to see you over there. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.